always win. You're our champion. You are the awesome God. There is none like you. When you win, you're our champion. With you we can lose. We always win. You're our champion. Oh, you are the awesome God. And there is none like you. With you we win. You're our champion. With you we can lose. We always win. You're our champion. Oh, you are the awesome God. And there is none like you. With you we win. You're our champion. With you we can lose. We always win. You're our champion. Oh, you are the awesome God. And there is none like you. With you we win. You're our champion. With you we can lose. We always win. You're our champion. Oh, you are the awesome God. And there is none like you. With you we win. You're our champion. With you we can lose. We always win. You're our champion. Oh, you are the awesome God. And there is none like you. With you we win. You're our champion. With you we can lose. We always win. You're our champion. Oh, you are the awesome God. And there is none like you. With you we win. You're our champion. With you we can lose. We always win. You're our champion. Oh, you are the awesome God. And there is none like you. With you we win. You're our champion. With you we can lose. We always win. You're our champion. Oh, you are the awesome God. There is none like you. With you we win. You're our champion. With you awesome, yeah. There is none like you. With you we win. You're our champion. With you we can. We always win. You're our champion. Oh, Yahuwah is the awesome, yeah. And there is none like you. With you we win. You're our champion. With you we can. We always win. You're our champion. Oh, you are the awesome, yeah. And there is none like you. With you we win. You're our champion. With you we can. We always win. You're our champion. Yahuwah is the awesome, yeah. And there is none like you. With you we win. You're our champion. With you we can. We always win. You're our champion. Yahuwah is the awesome, yeah. There's none like you. With you we win. You're our champion. We can. We always win. You're our champion. Oh, Yahuwah is the awesome, yeah. And there is none like you. With you we win. You're our champion. You can. We always win. You're our champion. Oh, Yahuwah is the awesome, yeah. There's none like you. With you we win. You're our champion. With you we can. We always win. You're our champion. Oh, Yahuwah is the awesome, yeah. And there is none like you. With you we win. You're our champion. With you we can. We always win. You're our champion. Oh, Yahuwah is the awesome, yeah. And there's none like you. With you we win. You're our champion. With you we can. is the awesome Yah. And there is none like you. With you we you're our champion. With you we can we always win. You're our champion. Yahuwah is the awesome Yah. There is none like you. With you we are champion. With you we always win. You're our champion. Yahuwah is the awesome Yah. There is none like you. With you we you're our champion. With you we can we always win. You're our champion. Yahuwah is the awesome Yah. There is none like you. With you we you're our champion. With you we can we always win. You're our champion. Yahuwah is the awesome Yah. There is none like you. With you we you're our champion. With you we can we always win. You're our champion. Yahuwah is the awesome Yah. There is none like you. With you we you're our champion. With you we can we always win. You're our champion. Yahuwah is the awesome Yah. There is none like you. With you we you're our champion. With you we can we always win. You're our champion. Yahuwah is the awesome Yah. And there is none like you. With you we you're our champion. With you we always win. You're our champion. Yahuwah is the awesome Yah. There is none like you. With you we you're our champion. With you we always win. You're our champion. Yahuwah is the awesome Yah. There is none like you. With you we you're our champion. With you we can we always win. can lose. We always win. You're our champion. Oh, you are the awesome God. There is none like you. When you lead, you're our champion. You again, we always win. You're our champion. You are the awesome God. There is none like you. With you, you're our champion. You we can, we always win. You're our champion. As we stand before you tonight, I want to bring greetings from Messages of Yahuwah's Kingdom of Brave Belief Ministries. As we gather together this night for a time of our pre-Sabbath class, a time that I like to say we come to wet our palates and prepare us for Shabbat on this Yom Shishi, day 6. As we gather together, we're going to start off by reading the Baruch of the Torah. Repeat with me, Baruch Yahuwah,
Baruch Yahuwah,
the Baruch one.
the Baruch one.
Baruch is Yahuwah,
Baruch is Yahuwah,
the Baruch one.
the Baruch one.
For all eternity.
For all eternity.
Baruch atah,
Baruch atah,
Yahuwah,
Yahuwah,
our supreme one,
our supreme one.
King of the universe,
King of the
who
universe,
selected us from all the peoples
who selected us from all the peoples,
and gave us his Torah.
and gave us his Torah.
Baruch atah,
Baruch atah,
Yahuwah,
Yahuwah,
giver of the Torah,
giver of the Torah,
and it is so.
and it is so.
Baruch atah,
Baruch atah,
Yahuwah,
Yahuwah,
our supreme one,
our supreme one,
King of the universe,
King of the
who
universe,
gave us the Torah of truth,
who gave us the Torah of truth,
and implanted eternal life within us.
and implanted eternal life within us.
Baruch atah,
Baruch atah,
Yahuwah,
Yahuwah,
giver of the Torah,
giver of the Torah,
and it is so.
and it is so.
Now we'll have a reading of the commandments by Apostle Brown, and it is so.
And it is so.
Coming from the set apart scriptures. Aleph, I am Yahuwah your power, which brought you out of the land of Mitzrayim from the bed of slavery. Bet, you shall have no other power before me. You shall not make you any graven image or any likeness of anything that is in Shemayim above, or that is in the earth beneath, or that is in the man beneath the earth. You shall not bow down yourself unto them, nor serve them, for I, Yahuwah your power, am a jealous power, visiting the iniquity of the hours upon the children unto the third and fourth generation of them that hate me, and showing mercy unto thousands of them that love me and keep my commandments. Gimel, you shall not take the name of Yahuwah your power and falsify it, for Yahuwah will not hold him guiltless that takes his name and empties it. Dalet, guard the Sabbath day to set it apart, as Yahuwah your power has commanded you. 6 days you shall labor and do all your work, but the seventh day is the Sabbath of Yahuwah your power. In it you shall not do any work. You, nor your son, nor your daughter, nor your manservant, nor your maidservant, nor your ox, nor your ass, nor any of your cattle, nor your foreigner that is within your gates, that your manservant and your maidservant may rest as well as you. And remember that you were a servant in the land of Israel, and that Yahuwah your power brought out of there through a mighty hand and by a stretched out arm. Therefore Yahuwah your power commanded you to keep the Sabbath day. Hey, honor your Abba and your Ima as Yahuwah your power has commanded you, that your days may be prolonged and that it may go well with you in the land which Yahuwah your power is about to give you. While you shall not murder. Zain, neither shall you commit adultery. Het, neither shall you steal. Tet, neither shall you bear false witness against your neighbor. Yud, neither shall you desire your neighbor's wife. Neither shall you covet your neighbor's bed, his field, or his manservant, or his maidservant, his ox, or his ass, or anything that is your neighbor's. These words Yahuwah spoke unto all your assembly in the mount out of the midst of the fire, of the cloud, and of the thick darkness with a great voice. And he added no more, and he wrote them in 2 tables of stone and delivered them unto me. And it is so.
And it is so. Now we're going to be coming from the book of Yahusha, the son of Nun, chapter 1, verse 7 and 8. Only be you strong and very courageous, that you may observe to do according to all that Moshe, my servant, commanded you. Excuse me. Turn not from it to the right hand or to the left, that you may prosper wherever you go. Verse 8, let us recite this together. I will not let this scroll depart from my mouth.
I will not let this scroll depart from my mouth.
But I shall meditate on it.
But I shall meditate on it.
Day and night.
Day and night.
That I may observe to do.
That I may observe to do.
According to all that is written in it.
According to all that is written in it.
For then I shall make my way prosperous.
For then I shall make my way prosperous.
And act wisely.
And act wisely.
And act wisely.
And act wisely.
And it is so.
And it is so.
Now look at your neighbor and tell your and say to your neighbor, let's place our hands over our hearts. And Abba Yahuwah,
Abba Yahuwah,
I shall act wisely.
I shall act wisely.
Come on, say it again. Abba Yahuwah,
Abba Yahuwah,
I shall act wisely.
I shall act wisely.
One more time, I shall act wisely.
I shall act wisely.
And it is so.
And it is so.
It is so. Come on, let's have another song, please. I was glad when they said unto me, I was glad when they said unto me, I was glad when they said unto me, come let us go into the house of Yahweh. I was glad when they said unto me, I was glad when they said unto me, I singing when they said unto me. I was singing when they said unto me. I was singing when they said unto me. Come let us go into the house of God. These are the commandments, the statutes, and the judgments which Yahuwah your power commanded to teach you, that you might do them in the land where you are going to enter and possess it, that you might fear Yahuwah your power to keep all his statutes and his commandments which I command you, you and your son and your grandson, all the days of your life, and that your days may be prolonged. Hear therefore, O Yisrael, and observe to do it, that it may be well with you, and that you may increase mightily, as Yahuwah power of your Abbas has promised you in the land that flows with milk and honey. Milk and honey. Hear, O Yisrael, Yahuwah our Supreme One, Yahuwah is a God. Shema Yisrael, Yahuwah is our Savior, Yahuwah is a God. And you shall love Yahuwah your power, your Supreme One, with all your heart and with all your soul and with all your might. And these words which I command you this day shall be on your heart. And you shall teach them diligently unto your children, and shall talk of them when you sit in your bed, and when you walk by the way, and when you lie down, and when you rise up. And you shall bind them for a sign upon your hand, that they shall be as frontlets between your eyes. To fall, bind to the mind. And you shall write them upon the posts of your bed and on your gates. And it shall be when Yahuwah your power shall have brought you the land which he swore unto your fathers, to Abraham, to Isaac, and to Jacob, to give you great and goodly cities which you did not build, and houses full of all good things which you filled not, and wells dug which you did not dig, vineyards and olive trees which you did not plant. When you shall have eaten and be full, then beware lest you forget Yahuwah which brought you forth out of the land of Mitzrayim, from the bed of slavery. You shall fear Yahuwah your power, and serve him, and shall swear by his name. You shall not go after the power of the people which are round about you. For Yahuwah your power is a jealous power among you, lest the anger of Yahuwah your power be kindled against you, and he destroy you from off the face of the earth. You shall not tempt Yahuwah your power as you tempted him at Massa. You shall diligently keep the commandments of Yahuwah your power, and his testimonies and his statutes which he has commanded you. And you shall do that which is right and good in the sight of Yahuwah, that it may be well with you, and that you may go in and possess the good land which Yahuwah sware unto you. Chapter 6 of the book of Devarim, chapter 1 to verse 18. And it is so. Let us have another song, please.
Be magnified, be magnified, be magnified. Come on, be magnified. Come on, be magnified. Be magnified in the heavens. Be magnified in the earth. Be magnified in this temple. Be thou magnified. Be magnified. Be magnified in the heavens. Be magnified.
Hallelujah. Missionary 15 and 8, the sacrifices of the wicked is an abomination, hateful and exceedingly offensive unto you, Abba Yahuwah, but the prayer of the upright, it is your delight. Missionary 3 and 4, so shall we find good understanding and high esteem in the sight of judgment of Yahuwah. Amen. It is so.
It is so.
Tehillim 34 and 15, the eyes of Yahuwah are upon the upright, and his ears are open unto our cry. Verse 17, the upright cry, and Yahuwah heareth and delivereth us out of all our troubles. And it is so. Acts 1 and 8, but we shall receive power after that the Ruach HaKodesh has come upon us, and we shall be witnesses unto him both in Jerusalem and in all Judea and in Shamar and unto the uttermost part of the earth. And it is so.
It is so.
Tehillim 1 and 1, but who is the man that walketh not in the counsel of the unrighteous, nor standeth in the way of sinners, nor sitteth in the seat of the scornful, but his delight is in the instructions of Abba Yahuwah, and he doth meditate upon it day and night, and it is so.
And it is so.
And it is so. Ibram 11 and 6, but without belief it is impossible to please him. For he that cometh to Yahuwah must believe that he is, and that he is a rewarder of them that diligently seek him. It takes belief to be our obedient, diligent discipline, and it is so.
It is so.
Ayah 33 and 4, the Ruach HaKodesh of Yahuwah hath made me, and the breath of the Almighty hath given me life. Micah 4 and 8, but truly I am full of power by the Ruach HaKodesh of Yahuwah, and of judgment, and of might, to declare unto Yaakov his transgression, Yisrael his sin. And it is so.
It is so.
Yehukin and Aleph chapter 5, verse 4 and 5. For whatsoever is born of Yahuwah overcometh the world, and this is the victory that overcometh the world, even our belief. Who is he that overcometh the world, but he that believeth that Yahusha is the son of Yahuwah? Yehukin and Aleph 2, 5 and 6. But whoever keeps his Torah, truly the love of Yahuwah is perfected in him. By this we know that we are in him. Verse 6, he who says he has in him ought himself also to walk just as he walked. Verse 17, and the world passes away and the lust thereof. But he that doeth the will of Yahuwah abideth forever. Somebody say abideth forever.
Abideth forever.
Say it again, abideth forever.
Abideth forever.
And it is so.
And it is so.
And it is so. Let's sing that song, please. Baruch Yahuwah, oh my soul, and all that is within me. Baruch Yahuwah, oh my soul, and all that is within me.
your name. Baruch Yahuwah. Oh, my soul, and all that is within me. Baruch Yahuwah. Oh, my soul, and all that is within me. I will baruch your name. 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 Baruch Yahuwah. Oh, my soul, and all that is within me. Oh, my soul, and all that is within me. I will baruch your name. 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 Baruch Yahuwah. Oh, my soul, and all that is within me. Baruch Yahuwah. Oh, my soul, and all that is within me. I will baruch your name. 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 Oh, my soul, and all that is within me. Baruch Yahuwah. Oh, my soul, and all that is within me. I will baruch your name. 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 Oh, my soul, and all that is within me. Baruch Yahuwah. Oh, my soul, and all that is within me. I will baruch your name. 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 Baruch Yahuwah. Oh, my soul, and all that is within me. Baruch Yahuwah. Oh, my soul, and all that is within me. I will baruch your name. 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 Baruch Yahuwah. Oh, my soul, and all that is within me. Baruch Yahuwah. Oh, my soul, and all that is within me. I will baruch your name. 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 Oh, my soul, and all that is within me. Oh, my soul, and all that is within me. I will baruch your name. 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 Oh, my soul, and all that is within me. Oh, my soul, and all that is within me. I will baruch your name. 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 Come on, baruch him, baruch him.
You're worthy, you're worthy, you're worthy, you're worthy. All day long, all day long, He has been committed to keeping us out of incidents, accidents, keeping us from sickness, keeping us. And so we do give Him praise and the highest esteem because of all that He's doing and all that He's done in us and through us. Therefore, Yehukanet Moshiach, which is Mark chapter 11, verse 24. Therefore I say unto you, what things soever ye desire when ye pray, believe that ye receive them, and you shall have them. Devarim chapter 11, verses 13 through 21. And it reads, and it shall come to pass, if you listen carefully to my commandments, which I command you this day, to love Yahuwah your power, and to serve Him with all your heart and with all your soul, that I will give you the rain of your land in his due season, the first rain and the latter rain, that you may gather in your corn and your wine and your oil. And I will set grass in your fields for your cattle, that you may eat and be full. Take heed to yourselves that your heart be not deceived, and you turn aside and serve other power and worship them. And then Yahuwah's wrath be ignited against you. And he shut up Shemayim, that there be no rain, and that the land yield not her fruit, unless you perish quickly from off the good land which Yahuwah gives you. Therefore shall you lay up these my words in your heart and in your soul, and bind them for a sign upon your hand, that they may be frontlets between your eyes. And you shall teach them your children, speaking of them when you sit in your bed, and when you walk by the way, and you lie down, and when you rise up. And you shall write them upon the doorposts of your bed and upon your gates, that your days may be multiplied, and the days of your children, in the land which Yahuwah swore unto your Abbas to give them, as the days of Shemayim upon the earth. Verse 22. For if you shall carefully keep all these commandments which I command you to do them, to love Yahuwah your power, and to walk in all his halakha, and to cling unto him. And it is so. And it is so. No matter what, we are to cling unto him. No matter what we face, no matter what we find the challenges in our lives, we still have to cling unto him. And it is so. And it is so. As we've come to this portion of our time of confession and reading of this portion of the scriptures, let us repeat this together. Abba Yahuwah, in the name of Yahusha, our Mashiach, we subdue ignorance, with Torah knowledge, and through this knowledge, of Torah truth, we claim healing, shalom, salvation, and deliverance. We decree Torah truth in the lives of your people, Yasrael. We unite not to fight each other, but the enemy of our belief. But the enemy of our belief. And it is so. It is not just a confession, but it is also a declaration. It's a confession as well as a declaration. We're not going to fight one another, but we are going to make sure we uphold one another and love one another the way we're supposed to. And it is so. And it is so. And it is so. One thing about it, siblings always have, and any people that understand and have siblings, when you have good relationships, you're going to have disagreements. But disagreements should never take us to a place to where now we become vindictive, and we become mean, and we become very harsh with our words towards one another. That's right. We should never do that. We should always remember that we are siblings and we are a part of the same family. That we are the family of power. We are the children of the Mishpachah of Yahuwah. And it behooves us to love one another and be mindful of one another's feelings and one another's and be concerned about one another. And not just be doing our own thing. Once again, if you have siblings and you know, even with siblings, you're going to have disagreements. But it's when you start having disagreements that start taking you down a place of being vindictive and becoming malicious, and then you want to fight and you want to do all those things, that's when it's a problem. So once again, it's important for us to understand that we are a family, we are a mishpachah. We are the children of power, and we are to govern our lives as such. And so it's important that we take time to get to know one another. and we take that time to love one another and be concerned about one another. Take the time to get to know somebody you don't know.
Right.
Take the time to talk with somebody you haven't talked or haven't spoken with before.
Right.
One of the things, and we're about to do our last confession, but one of the things, because I am a stickler for confessions, I'm a stickler for repetition. One of the things that I've noticed on Facebook and on some of the rest of the social medias is that you have so many people posting, you have so many people doing, and when it's all said and done, some of us are on the same timeline, and you see the same people doing the same thing, and yet you see 2 or 3 people liking or commenting.
Right.
And then when you go on and you say, wow, but they're posting, y'all, we run in parallel. So why is it that you're posting like it's in competition with their post, and their post is in competition? It's almost like it's a big competition. I'm not in competition with anybody but myself. Because there's nobody qualified to compete with me. And that's not being arrogant. And that's not being boastful and proud. That's being truthful. But we've got to learn to love one another and respect one another and be mindful of one another. We're in this to win it. And you have to understand that we don't get it right here in the land of our enemy. How do we think we're going to travel together and get it right when we get home? This is why we are in the place of gathering. He's gathering us. Restoration, first of all, recovery, then restoration, then revival. We're all in a place of recovery, and all of us at one point in time have been burned. Some of us more than once. But at the same time, you have to understand, we're walking in a new walk. We're walking in our rightful way of life.
Right.
And so that should change us, and that should speak volumes to us, and even in our lives. Now, I understand that at times when you're meeting folks, that if you want to get to know them. But once again, the writings say no man after the flesh, but after the Ruach. So we are truly all filled with the Ruach Kodesh. Then there ought to be a connection even before you know what my favorite color is, because you may never know that. You may never get to know what my favorite food is. But there ought to always be a connection with us in the Ruach Kodesh. But the problem comes in is we're so concerned about what we look like and what we're saying that we don't even remember the purpose of us coming together.
That's right.
That's because he's preparing us so he can take us home at one time.
That's right. That's right.
Not only those that can afford to go home can go home. That's not it. So once again, let us be mindful. And that's why when we say this last confession during this portion of our time to go into class, it is important that we really think about what we are asking Abba Yahuwah to do. So throughout the day, we will constantly keep a reality check. We will constantly be mindful of what we say and what we do. Now, I'm not saying that you have to be a floor mat, but I'm saying that when we do things, we make sure we do them in integrity. You don't have to let anybody talk to you any kind of way, but you definitely don't have to profane them out either.
That's right.
You can get them told and tell them no in a very nice and a stern way. And so it's important that we understand that. But when we confess this, that we remember we're asking Abba Yahuwah to do this. And we're asking him to allow our words. So that means before we ask him, let us take a moment to really look and think about what we've said on today. What did we say? Do we really want him to accept what we've thought about, what we've meditated on, what we've spoken today? Has it lined up? Has it met the standard that he has placed before us for us to ask him to let it be desirable and is before him? That's why it's important that before we come before him, we always repent. And that we always make sure that we've done that we haven't offended anybody. And if we have, that we ask for their fruits. It's important that we understand that. Are we hearing on today, tonight? Because it's time that we really learn to rest. I don't know about you, but I'm so tired of stuff going on throughout the day. I really am. But I understand my rest comes in him and not in anything else. So it's important that. So as we bow before our King, and as we recite this, let us bow before him, and once again, let us take to heart what we're asking him at this time. Repeat with me, may the utterance of my mouth, and the deliberation of my heart, be desirable before you, O Yahuwah, my rock, and my redeemer. May the utterance of my mouth, and the deliberation of my heart, be desirable before you, O Yahuwah, my rock, and my redeemer. And We have just recited to hymn 19 and 15, and it is so.
Indeed so.
You may be seated in His presence as we prepare to go into class on this awesome Yom Shishi, as we make preparations to wet our palates for Sabbath rest on the great rising, which will be tomorrow. Let us turn our attention to the book of Bereshit, chapter 25. We're going to start at verse 19. Our theme this week is Todas, and it means generations. It means generations. Last week, as we looked at the life of Sarah, just awesome, but also very emotional because of the things that we've come to learn. And I am an emotional person, but not in a negative, in a bad way. I'm not trust me, I'm not a bag of tears, but there are some things, I don't know about you, that really just touches the heart when you think about certain things. And so when we looked at the life of Sarah, after finally having the child of her, I say love child, being Baruch with her son, and then grooming him and nurturing him and talking of him and talking with him, was tricked by the enemy to believe that he was dead. And she had gotten so, I believe she had a heart attack. I believe that she had a heart attack because of all of the information that was rushing in, negative and that wasn't right. And so she found herself being overwhelmed with information. And this is one of the things that's important for us as a people, that we not be overwhelmed with information, especially the wrong. Because let me tell you something, wrong information and right information does not mix.
Right. That's right.
One is going to be overbearing. One is going to be overpowering. And so it's important that we understand the right type of information so that we can develop and what? Grow. I said it and I continue to say it. I understand a lot of time people want, the different things, but you have to understand the path that he has me on, that what he has me doing, I have to stick to it because I'm going to be obedient to him and I'm going to listen to what he says to me.
That's right.
A lot of time people think teachings and teaching in a format and a teaching according to consistency, and teaching a series is not important. But let me tell you something. You know, it's been generations after generations that our people were really assassinated and erroneously told. And so it takes more than just one teaching to change and to undo what was done generations and generations ago. Because you have to understand, some things were embedded in us. It was embedded in us. Why? Because it was embedded in ancestors and forefathers. And so to undo those things, it is important that repetition takes place. If you've ever been in the school from kindergarten all the way to the 12th grade, and I know people get kind of crazy when you get to talking about school, but using this I believe is a proper way. Why? Because even when you teach your children, you don't start them off with stuff that you would teach a 12th grader.
That's right.
You still teach them the basics. And so when you start with the basics, you learn that everything that you learn, it does change in that respect. It just becomes harder and more challenging.
Right.
But you still are taught math. Geometry, trigonometry is still math.
Right. That's right.
You are taught science, biology, earth science. Are you hearing me?
Yeah.
So these are still what? Science. You're taught history, geography. And so when it is all said and done, you are taught these things, and guess what? From kindergarten or Head Start all the way up to 12th grade, you are taught these things. It just becomes challenging and more difficult because of your development and because of your growth. That's what it does. And so a lot of times what I have seen in my observation, and as a teacher and as a prophetess, because that's what I'm supposed to do, I've seen that people become impatient. Our people are very impatient. And I told you in the beginning, I'll continue to say it, I am not a problematic teacher or preacher, but I believe in calling a spade and calling it what it is when it is needed. We get impatient and we feel that nobody can teach us and tell us anything. So we go on a quest to start teaching and gathering information so that we can grow and develop ourselves. And so what happens is we start becoming a law or a system unto our own selves. And people say, well, I don't need nobody to teach me nothing because Yahuwah speaks to me. He's not going to break his instructions.
That's right.
He's not going to do it. But we continue to do the same thing over again. And then in our times of posting, and trust me, I'm not against anybody posting. If you're on social media, it's good to post because that's how we get to know one another. But when we start posting things and we start doing things that attack other people, especially our own people, that's when it becomes a problem.
That's right.
Because we will never learn from one another if all we do is attack one another.
Mm-hmm.
You can't learn from one another because nobody's going to want to listen to you. You're always attacking them.
That's right.
But once again, you have to understand, when we go to school, we are going, and if you notice in a school, there is what? There is 50 to 100 to maybe 200 students there. And the whole purpose of that school is to teach what? Everybody what? The same thing. So that everybody can be on the same wave and be on the same level in life. Everybody may learn at a different pace, but you're all still learning the same thing.
That's right.
This is where we as a people have to come together and humble ourselves and be willing to learn.
That's right.
Once again, I'm not saying that you have to sit under my tutelage, but I am saying you need to sit under somebody.
Right. Right.
Because this is why we got so many people backwards and forwards. We see them, I don't know what to do. I'm so tired of this and I'm so tired of that. Tired, why? Because honestly, you're out there doing everything. And you're listening to everything. You go to this one and you eat from that person's house. Then you go here and you eat from that person. Then you come back and now you're confused because people are saying 2 and 3 different things. And then people say, but you bring it out in a different manner. Understand, I don't need the praises of men.
That's right.
And I don't want the praises of men. And that's the truth. But what I am saying is in the hour that we are in and in the season that we're in, it is important that we be careful and cautious and be careful, especially with our mouths. Because we tend to say things, you say, but I don't say it, but if you type it, it's just as good as you spoke it.
That's right.
Because your words are still what you type.
Mm-hmm.
And so it's important that we understand that it is time for us to come together as a people. That we be one people, and that when the world sees us, they see the power, the children of power, and they see the wisdom that flows. Not us being antagonistic with one another. Not us being always arguing. And even if we're not, then we're indirectly saying something. And we feel like I can do it at home. I can do this. I'm telling you, and you can take this as a warning, and you can believe me if you want to and if you don't. But I'm telling you, there's coming a day you're going to wish, if you do not connect, that you did connect. Because when all this ceases and there is no way to communicate by way of social media, what are you going to do? So you understand the enemy is very divisive. That's why Rabbi Shaul said, I will not have you ignorant concerning the devices of Shaitan. His whole purpose, and we're getting into my lesson on tonight, to the lesson. But his whole purpose is to divide so that he can do what? Conquer. If you can't divide us, you can't conquer us.
That's right.
But that's his whole purpose, is to divide and conquer.
That's right.
And so that's what he does. And he uses the very tool that Yahuwah, I believe, allowed us to be participants in to connect us. And half the time, we don't even connect.
Right.
We go with our people that we are comfortable with, that we believe that we can trust. We should be able to trust we should be able to trust everybody that we believe that's walking as an Hebrew.
That's right.
But you know what happens? We start saying, well, I didn't like what they said. No, I didn't agree with that. It doesn't matter if I agree or disagree. If it's right, it's right.
That's right.
Because my agreeing and disagreeing don't have nothing to do with walking in truth.
Mm-hmm.
Are you understanding me?
Yes.
So it's important that we understand and that we communicate and that we love one another and that we be there for one another. You may not know me and I may not know you, but I know you well enough to know when I can feel your heart.
That's right.
To when I know, no, you need me to talk with you. And I mean what I say. If I tell you, I mean it. I'm not gonna lie to you.
That's right.
I never do anything without first listening for the voice of Yahuwah.
Right.
And then when he gives me the release, I do. But it's important that we begin to bridge those gaps, begin to build bridges and connect with one another so that we can truly show the world that we are people of wisdom and that we are people that understand conflict resolution and that we know how to dwell with one another in shalom.
Right.
And it is so.
And it is so.
And it is so. Now we're going to turn our attention once again to the book of Bereshit, chapter 25, and we'll start at verse 19. And it is so.
And it is so.
Let us read 6 verses, please. Starting with verse 19. This is the genealogy of Isaac, Abraham's son. Abraham begot Isaac. Isaac was 40 years old when he took Rebekah as wife, the daughter of Bethuel, the Syrian of Aram, the sister of Laban, the Syrian. Now Isaac pleaded with Yahuwah for his wife because she was barren, and Yahuwah granted his plea, and Rivkah, his wife, conceived. Now you have to understand there's an appointed time for everything. And I've heard many theologians say that she was young because in that time they married young. Now you have to remember, he was 40, so she was about 20 because I believe she was 20 years younger than he was. So just like today, you have a lot of people that marry older, mature men. And so she was actually 20 years, I believe, younger than him. Some people had it that she was 10 years old. You know, just crazy that the little girl was 10 years old. But according to the writings and history, she was 20 years younger than him. And so she did not conceive right off. And so he pleaded and he prayed. And Yahuwah opened up her womb. And this is where we began to see this is where life for him and the family, Abraham, begins to change. And it begins to become really colorful and flavorful, if I may use those words. And so it reads, and the children struggled together within her, and she said, if all is well, why am I this way? So she went to inquire of Yahuwah. One thing that is important with verse 22, pay attention, pay attention. If he's not hurting anybody and he ain't doing anything wrong, then he's good. If he's not hurting anybody, he's good. Now, once again, the children struggled together within her womb. And she said, if all is well, why am I this way? So she went to inquire of Yahuwah. Now, it's important that we understand that anybody has ever been with child. I know men cannot be, even though you have those that have lied and said that men have had babies. That's a lie. But because of the discomfort that she was having, because they were wrestling, it becomes challenging when you have one baby flipping and rolling about 7, 8, maybe 9 pounds. It becomes very difficult to maneuver and to walk around, but to have 2 lives on the inside, they are wrestling for position. That is something that can really be challenging. And for somebody that has never had a child before or had children, it's kind of hard to understand. But for those of us that have carried children, you can understand the discomfort. Because when you have a big baby on the inside of you, you have to understand that baby kicks, that baby moves, that baby rolls, that baby flips. And to have 2 in there and they trying to fight for position, her stomach probably looked like something to behold. Because they were fighting for position. They were wrestling. That meant they shared the same amniotic sac, even though they were different. Are you understanding me?
Yes.
And so here it is, that became challenging for her. And look, she went to inquire of Yahuwah for herself. That meant she had a what? Relationship with him.
That's right.
She had a relationship with him. And that relationship is shown because she went to inquire. You don't go inquire of somebody that you don't know is not, that you know that's not going to answer you.
Right. That's right.
So she knew that some way he was going to answer her. Verse 23, and Yahuwah said to her, 2 nations are in your womb. Who said to her? Yahuwah. He spoke back to her. He didn't tell her, go get your husband and let me talk to him and he'll tell you.
That's right.
Are you understanding me?
Yes.
As many have told many women, well, you go get a man and get married and let him teach you. In other words, he has to be the spokesman and he has to be the one that goes before her in order to inquire of Yahuwah for her. That's not right, and it never had been right.
That's right.
Even Chava spoke to Yahuwah and said, the serpent beguiled me. When he asked her, what have you done? Right. Hadam didn't jump up in there and say what happened was. She spoke because she had a voice and she had a mouth to speak. Right. And so here it is, Rebekah does the same thing. And Yahuwah answers her. He said, 2 nations are in your womb. 2 peoples shall be separated from your body. 2 peoples shall be separated from your body. 1 people shall be stronger than the other, and the older shall serve the younger. Now listen what it says. There are 2 things that are made distinct right here. 1 people shall be stronger than the other, and the older shall serve the younger. Are you hearing me?
Yes.
One's going to be strong, but the older, regardless, is going to have to serve the younger. Now, once again, it's important that we understand this, because this also has been a very delicate position and situation for us as the people, because everybody's trying to say who Esau is, who he is not. Everybody's trying to basically, that's been a major gridlock, and it's been a major point of bickering, confusion, and just a whole lot of stuff. If we want to maintain, let's just maintain what the writings say. Are you hearing me? Yes. Let's maintain that. And when we maintain that, guess what? We can walk together and flow. Once again, you know there are different people. As far as that goes, you have red chocolate.
That's right.
Are you hearing me? Yes. So once again, if we maintain and stick to the consistency, then we will see. The only reason why we start bickering is because we start trying to add other people into this equation. Are you understanding?
Yes.
Are you hearing me?
Yes.
All right. Now, let's look at it. The battle was spiritual and was revealed in the birth of the children when Esau tried to kill his brother in the womb by his heel. Now, let me tell you something. That's kind of hard to fathom, but it is not to a degree. You think of babies being innocent and you know, they can't harm nobody. But this joker was kicking him while he was in the womb. And you know, one thing about babies, if you know anything about babies, babies have a mole right here in the center of their head. That's what we call the soft spot. If you ever had family members that have babies and they tell them, don't touch them up there. Or even if you look at the baby and you're holding it and you look at the top of the head, you see it vibrate. No, I don't say vibrate, pulsating. Just you see the pulse in it. And you see it, and you see up under that little pretty hair, and you look, or if they got a little slick head, you see that little bit right there just going up and down, a little bit, just like that. And what we were told by the elders and by the more mature women, when you take that baby out, make sure that it is covered, but you don't take the baby out till the mold is closed. That says that the structure of the head is developing and closing. And so it's a little hole, but it closes. And so I was really careful when we had ours. I would make sure that if they were held by their siblings, make sure you hold that head up, because you don't want to bump that, because that's very a very delicate and sensitive area of the head. And so they would always have hats on their head and so forth. But once again, this was going on, and so he was trying to kick him. So you have to understand, any kind of pressure could have taken a life. And so it's important that we understand what was taking place in the womb. Are you hearing me?
Yes.
All right. Now, verse 24. So when her days were fulfilled for her to give birth, indeed there were twins in her womb. Now you have to understand, they didn't have the type of stuff we have now, ultrasound and all that stuff, and they could tell, because you could have twins hiding behind one another. My cousin, who had twins, they were hiding behind one another. Well, the baby one was hiding behind the older one, and they could not distinguish, because their heartbeats were systematic. They had the same rhythm. So when you heard one heartbeat, you heard the other. And if you didn't have a good ear, you wouldn't be able to tell that there was another baby behind the baby. So when they were born, they said, oh my goodness, there's another one back here. See, that was the excitement and truly the thing that was just different in that time of getting birth. You didn't know what you were going to have till that baby popped out the womb. You didn't know how many you were going to have till that baby popped out the womb. Or if you had one of them good old emas that had an eye, no, it's twins up in there. No, I ain't no twins. No, it's twins up in there. And sure enough, there will be twins up in there. And so, and they knew by it's crazy, but they knew by the shape of the belly if there was a boy or if it was a girl. They could tell by touching. Yes, they could. They could tell by the shape of it. They said if it was pointed, it was a boy. If it was round, it was a girl. Or it may be the other way around. But they knew how to tell because they had that eye to see. And then they could touch it and tell you, it's two in there. Or that's just one baby. They knew that. So when this time, like I say, they had no ultrasounds. They had none of those things. They had to basically go off of, They had to basically go off of the midwives watching them and them taking care of themselves. And so when these babies were born, this is what took place. And listen what happens when it says it comes out, which we have heard this a time, and I'm going to get my readers in a minute. And the first came out red. He was like a hairy garment all over, so they call his name Esau. Esau being hairy is the Ramaz hint of him being part of the end times hairy beast of Islam. So that means he would be what? Not European. He definitely would not be European. Mostly who are Muslim? Arabs. People don't believe that though, because if you ever see on the equation and on the when they start talking about not just the 12 tribe chart, but when they start talking about different charts, have you ever noticed they never include the Arabs anywhere in any of the charts? They never speak of them, but you better understand they are our natural born enemies. They are. Now, once again, you have to understand, a lot of people say, well, when you look at the Europeans, they are red and they are hairy. But if you look at the Arabs, they are red too. Are you hearing? Are you hearing me? And hairy. Are you hearing me? Yes. So once again, it's important that we understand what's taking place here. And his name was Esau. And Esau, biblically meaning is stubble, as he shall be stubble one day. And we can see that in Obadiah 1 and 18. Once again, we have to understand names and we have to follow through with these things. We have to follow through with these things. Why? Because if we don't follow this, then we'll begin to be all over the place. Are you understanding?
Yes.
And we'll be here, there, and everywhere. Once again, I've heard all kinds of sayings. They said, well, he had to be European because Europeans are red and all that stuff. But you have to understand there are types of red and ruddy. Ruddy meaning the red of the earth. And then you have those that are red. We have the red. That's red. Are you understanding me? There are different types of red. And so when we get to talking about red, the first thing comes to mind is we start thinking about blush. That blush red, that red when all the blood is right there. But this is a red that is in the color, not just because of the flesh. Are you hearing me? Because of somebody being flush or somebody being, what is it when they get warm or what have you, or they get frustrated. And you can see most of the time when you see Europeans really being really red is when they have come out of the sun or they have been involved in activity. But it's not one of those things that stay all the time. Are you understanding?
Yes.
Once again, because you have to understand, Dawood was ruddy. And when you say that, when you look at the earth, there is earth that is a dark red. It's a dark red. It is not red like the color red, like on a tablecloth, or the color red like a red cherry. Most of your cherries are red, but they're what? That dark red. Just like olives. Olives are black. Are you hearing me?
Yes.
And when you say olive color, the first thing people are like, what olive? Oh, olive is black. Yes, you have green olives, but black olives too. Are you understanding me? I've never seen a green person. Unless they're sick, and even then, unless they have some kind of makeup on. But once again, it's important that we understand what the writings tell us. He was hairy. And that was symbolic of, it was a Ramaz hint of him being part of the end times hairy beast of Islam. And so anybody understands and knows that that is going to be the end time beast, and there's so much more that goes along with that. Esau, biblically meaning, is stubble, as he shall be stubble one day. he's going to be stubble. Are you understanding me?
Yes.
Once again, yes, I know what we understand what those have done in the past when it comes down to slavery and all that, but it was already prophesied that we were going to be enslaved by a people we knew not of. We didn't know anything about no Europeans. But it's also, we know that there is also that war and that fight that has always been between Yaakov's children and the children of Esau and Yaakov. Are you hearing me?
Yeah.
We've always seen that. So it's important that we understand that, and even Ishmael and Isaac. So there's always been that fight there. So once again, it's important that we keep our eyes on that and not follow the populace and not follow the crowd. Because everybody believes that it's the Europeans that are Esau, and that's not true. Are you hearing me?
Yes.
That is not true. Now, it says, afterward, his brother came out, and his hand took hold of Esau's heel, so his name was called Yaakov. And Isaac was 60 years old when she bore them. So he was 60. Are you hearing me?
Yes.
He was 60. And so she was only 40. All right. Now, let's look at this footnote. The ancient meaning of the word Yaakov is Yahuwah, watching and guarding his house, while the secondary meaning is hand over heel. Because Yaakov was protecting his head from being crushed by Esau, his mother in his mother's or Emma's womb, where Esau tried to crush his head. So once again, there's a lot of things that we miss when we were taught. We always just taught that they struggled. No, there was a real struggle within the womb. Now, somebody would say, well, how would you know that this took place? Now, you have to understand, when babies are born, depending on what's going on in the womb and how they come out, they can bruise easily. They can bruise real easily. And so there had to be an indication of what was taking place. Because when he came out, he was holding on to his heel. Surely not to try to stay in there. Are you understanding me? But to show that he was protecting his head. Even if you notice, when babies, brand new babies, when they are startled, what do? Most of the time they're doing like this. Most of the time they're doing like this. Or if you're holding their fingers or or let them hold your hand and you startle them, what do? They hold on tighter. Because they're startled. Are you understanding? Yeah. So there are certain things that they know to do. It ain't like they're crazy or like they just have no kind of consciousness. Babies are very conscious. They know things. They hear things. Are you understanding me? Yeah. They hear the papa's and the Emma's voice when they're talking. I used to talk and sing to all my babies. That's why they could sing so good. Talk to them, sing to them, and everything. No, I'm just playing. Talk to them. Play with them, and I spent time with them. And I always talked to them when they were born. The first thing I would always tell them is, I'm glad you're here. When I looked upon their little faces and I saw them, I would always look and say, I'm so glad you're here. Glad to meet you. Always had that conversation with them. Why? Because I was. There's a difference being in the womb and outside of it.
Right.
Are you understanding?
Yes.
So it's important that we understand that. Once again, let us read. Get my readers to read for me. All right. Excuse me. 27, 28, 29, 30, 31. Bereshit, chapter 25, verse 27. 27, 28, 29, 30. Let's do 31. Let's do 5 verses.
Chapter 27?
Yes.
Verse 27
Mm-hmm.
to verse
31.
Okay. And it reads. And the voice grew up, and Esau became a man knowing how to hunt, a man of the field, while Yaakov was a complete man dwelling in tents. And Ishak loved Esau because he ate of his wild game, But Rivkah loved Yaakov. And Yaakov cooked a stew, and Esau came in from the field, and he was weary. And Esau said to Yaakov, Please feed me with that same red stew, for I am weary. This is why his name was called Edom. But Yaakov said, Sell me your birthright today. And it is so.
And it is so. One of the things I love about the book of Jubilee and the book of Yasher is that it fills in the blanks. And when it fills in the blanks, it gives us a wider sense of what took place. And a lot of people did not want it because, once again, when you look at these books, they are considered non-canonical. And so they kept them out. But one thing about truth is that it always finds a way. Remember in the movie Jurassic Park, when Jeff Goldblum said life will always find a way, when they saw the eggs by the tree and they saw the little feet walking by, they knew life will always find a way. And so would truth and knowledge. It always finds a way because Yahuwah is always going to allow it to come forth. And so with the book of Yasher and even in the book of Jubilees, when you read it and you see what is taking place. Now, it says in verse 27, so the boys grew, and Esau was a skilled hunter, a man of the field. But Yaakov was a perfect man dwelling in tents. He was dwelling in tents while his brother was out in the fields. And Isaac loved Esau because he ate of his game, but Rebekah loved Yaakov. Now, once again, it's amazing right here. And Isaac loved Esau because he ate of his game, because he was a hunter, and that's what he did. He loved venison. But Rivkah loved Yaakov. You see the difference there. And one thing about parenting, that's one of the things you can never do is have esteem over one child. You cannot have that over children. You have to have love for both. Both parents have to love all the children, and they have to never ever show partiality. Because the moment you start showing partiality is when you're going to begin to see division, and it causes a lot of confusion, and it causes a lot of hurt.
Right.
Hurt that time takes years, and sometimes never people being able to get over it. They just deal with it. They never get over it. They just deal with it. Are you hearing me?
Yes.
And so it says, now Yaakov cooked the stew, and Esau came in from the field, and he was famished. Now, verse 29 has a whole lot more to go with it. We're thinking the man that went out, you have to understand, he's a hunter. And when hunters go out, even if you just look at a hunter in our day and time, they don't ever go out without water. They don't ever go out with food and resources because they don't know how long they're going to be out. They know they're going to do what? Hunt. And they are not coming back until they necessarily have to come back. The reason he came back famished and tired was because he was fighting with his uncle, his great-great-uncle, Nimrod. Because Nimrod was still alive, which Christianity never ever alludes to and never tells us that some of them were still alive. Nimrod was still conquering and still taking places over.
That's right.
And so they were fighting, and he got the best of Nimrod. Now, he killed those of his servants that were with him, and he wounded Nimrod. So that lets you know that Esau was a man that was skilled, and he knew how to fight.
That's right.
And so in that, he was famished. Can you imagine? Now, mind you, Nimrod was not weak by any means, because he was a conqueror. But this time, you got to understand, he ran up against somebody that had his blood in him. You know, that's like two brothers clashing. Y'all ever seen y'all might have to use movies. Power Man. What's it called? Luke Cage. At first, I didn't want to watch it, but I love me some Luke Cage, y'all. But did you see the episode when the two brothers was fighting? I didn't like that episode, but it's just showing you truth. When two brothers clash, and you have to understand, those are what I would call power brothers, power men. They were powerful. And so they clashed and they fought. He didn't want to fight him, but he had to, because if he had not, he would have gotten it. Even though he had that special ability, he had all that stuff fixed up on him and all that, you know, he was all souped up with all that stuff on him. But one thing about it is that they were clashing. And they were fighting. And I can imagine that that's the way Nimrod and Esau were going at it. After he had taken out them other ones. You know, you take out the henchmen, the little small ones, and then you fight the bigger one that you're going to fight. And so in that fighting, he found himself, I believe, fighting, because it's like, now I didn't fought this, now I'm fighting for my life. I'm fighting for my life. And so he wounds him, and he's able to get away. And now he's tired because he was fighting, not because he was hunting. It doesn't take a lot to hunt.
Right.
That was why he was famished and tired. And so when he gets in, Yaakov sees this. And you have to understand, 9 times out of 10, he had been riding him about his birthright for a very long time. See, people know when you are vulnerable, especially when you're with around a lot of times, they know when you're vulnerable. And he took advantage of him being vulnerable. He knew it was home. And that's why he said, look, sell me your birthright. Because he probably had some scratches on him. He probably had some scratches on him. He probably seen that he was scuffling. You're going to see that. He probably one of them big old, red brothers sitting down, I'm hungry. You start thinking, any other time you would come in with something, it had to be something that was really, really important, or that distracted you and took your attention away from getting something, because you always came with something. Oh, you never came empty-handed. And I believe he saw this, and as he saw it as an opportunity. Like I said, he probably had all kinds of scratches on him, bruises on him. We don't know if his bow and arrow was broken. We don't know what was going on. But we do know he saw enough to ask him again. And then he basically, I don't want to say tortured him, but he basically taunted him with the food. And Esau said to Yaakov, please feed me with that same red stew, for I am famished. Therefore, his name was called Edom. It wasn't called Edom because what was it? Let me make sure I want to say this right. The stew was red. Are you hearing me?
Yes.
And that's why his name changed to Edom, because of the stew that he had eaten. Are you understanding?
Yes.
Sometimes when we read things, we just take it to when he sold his birthright, that's when his name changed. His name changed because of the stew he ate. Once again, let's look at it. And Esau said to Yaakov, please feed me with that same what? Red stew. For I am famished. Therefore, his name was called Edom, because he had eaten the red stew. Now, we already knew that when he was born, that he was hairy. Are you understanding?
Yes.
And that he had a reddish tint on him. But his name didn't change until he ate the red stew, to Edom. Are you hearing me?
Yes.
All right. It's important that we understand that. And so, look at what Yaakov says to him. Sell me your birthright as of this day. He knew that he was tired. He probably was all scuffed up. His face probably had changed colors. His hair probably was all disarrayed. He probably had got dirt on him. You have to understand, we're talking about power men fighting. We talking about that kind of scuffling. When you get back in, you can see he probably smelled like he had been fighting all day. And he gets in and he sees the perfect opportunity. Now you have to understand, what would make Yaakov have stew ready? Because he probably would come in around that time every day. But this time, he really looked and said, I can get him now, because he looked like he's tired. You can look in people's eyes when they're tired. You can tell it when people are tired. And so this is what happens. Now, let's look at the footnote that goes with this. The birthright is so important in Eastern culture that people do not give up on it and may even kill for it. Yet here we are shown a picture of Esau. He's so concerned about his stomach that he does not care for his birthright. Now, once again, you have to look at this also in retrospect. What if Nimrod had got the best of Esau and said, I will kill you on the spot if you don't sell me your birthright? If he sold it for a bowl of red stew, then he surely would have sold it for his life. That's why he wanted to eat, because he was afraid he was going to die. He was afraid he was going to die. That's why he basically said, okay. And then you have to understand he gave no relevance to it because he didn't like it. I believe that there was just something about what happened. Because you have to remember, Yaakov, he was a perfect man, dwelt in tents. Well, you have to look at, that's kind of like that subtle, quiet life. Well, then you had Esau. He's a hunter. He ain't going out there playing with the animals. He's going out there doing what? Killing them. Whereas Yaakov is at home in the tents doing more of what? Staying around, cleaning up. He's the professor, just my example. He's the one at home. He's in the books. Are you hearing me? He's the one that's more concerned about how can I develop the land? How can I fix this? I'm going to have that tent over there. I'm going to have this tent over here. This is going to be when I'm going to build this. This is when I'm going to build that. Whereas Esau, he's just thinking, well, I'm going to hunt because that's where my love is. I love being out there in the wilderness. I love being out there hunting. I love being out there in the wild. Never giving thought of what was his. So once again, you have to understand what would have happened if he would have sold his birthright to Nimrod. Because you have to understand, that's what Nimrod was doing. He was going all out over the land, conquering and doing what? Gaining land. Gaining land. And so he gets home and he sells his birthright. All right, let's read. 32, 33, 34, 35, 33, 34, 34 to 34, and then go to chapter 26. And then selling your birthright means giving your inheritance away, which Esau did. He gave his inheritance away. And a lot of people don't realize they do that when they leave, and they leave the wrong way. They give it up. And a lot of times, people don't realize that when you walk away or you leave away from your home wrong, most of the time you lose your inheritance if you have one.
Right.
It's the truth. And so he sold his. So we want to make sure, you want to make sure if you're at home and you plan on leaving or doing whatever, make sure you do it right, especially if your parents have something to leave you or to give you. Mm-hmm. But those of us that are ignorant understand you don't lose it, because as long as we stay together as a mishpachah, we always have it. And it is so.
It is so.
All right. 32, 33, 34, 67. I read. Esau said, look, I am about to die, so what profit shall this birthright be to me? Now, once again, he's talking about he's about to die. That lets you know he hadn't taken any kind of consideration or any thought to what he had. As old as he was, are you hearing me?
Yes.
He didn't even consider this plot of land is not just land, but this is wealth. This is yours. You go hunt on it. And then you're going to come back and say, what is it to me? And I'm about to die. You start thinking you ain't about to die. You just might be hurting and feel like you're going to die, but you're not about to die. And so the question is, so what shall the prophet be? But I truly believe, this is my opinion, hear me well, my opinion, that the reason why he did not care for it, because, number one, he was more concerned, I believe, let's put it this way, I believe that he saw that his Ema was more interested in Yaakov than she was in him. So with that being an imbalance, it's almost like, what is it to me? Long as I am in the eyes of my, excuse me, Papa, love, that's all that matters. Not realizing that this was his, and that which was his was also a part of him. Right. And so when he gave it up, so was he giving up that right. Are you understanding me? Yes. And so it didn't matter to him. And so once again, he was out there doing whatever he wanted. You know how you hear people, and I can use this example. On my papa's side, our family had a dairy farm. And the last time when I spoke to my aunt before she had passed, she said, yeah, the younger generation, they don't want it. They want to be in the country. And I'm saying to myself, I'll take it, because you don't understand. That's wealth.
That's right. That's
wealth. Why you want to go live in the city, in the smog, in that jammed up traffic. Are you understanding me?
Yes.
No. And she said they didn't want it. So guess what they did? They let it stay there, and they allowed, if the government didn't get it, they gave it away for pennies. Because they didn't understand inheritance and didn't understand the value and the wealth of land.
That's right.
And that's what a lot of us do today. I don't want to be in the country. I ain't in no country. I can't do nothing in no country. Let me tell you something and be warned. But everybody's talking about, I don't want to be in the country, baby. Let me tell you something. The city gonna show you just how it feels about you when all hell starts breaking loose. You better look and you better open up your eyes. You can't eat flowers. You can't eat and you can't sleep. You ain't gonna be sleeping and eating in them cars. Because all them cars, you better understand, have bugs in them. I believe the reason why we have so many towers is because those are places that they can hit a kill switch to stop you in your tracks, to shut phones down, to shut you right in your tracks, shut you down. But people just don't want to give up their phones, don't want to give up what they consider luxurious living. You don't want to give that out.
Right.
Let me tell you something. Eventually, either you're gonna let it go, or you're gonna let it go willfully, or you're gonna be forced out of it.
Right.
And you can believe that because it's coming to that time. Once again, why do you think? And once again, why do you think a lot of people are moving out of the city and the suburbs? You hear me?
Yes.
$7 million homes for $300,000. You can move in communities and neighborhoods that you never would have been able to move in about 6, 7, 8 years ago. Now all of a sudden you can go in there and live, and they moving out. They downsizing to itty bitty small houses, buying land in places, remote places, making videos. And what are we doing? We going there thinking, ooh, look at what he had blessed me with. I bought $1 million home for $200,000. You're being set up. You're being set up. Because you're looking at that and you're not looking at, well, why would they let this go? Ain't nothing wrong with it. Beautiful. Why would they let it go? They're letting it go because they realize what's getting ready to happen. And we run behind trying to get it because we don't want to live in the country. We so busy about our nose and our weave and all that stuff. All that's not gonna matter when everything is falling apart. It's not gonna matter. And once again, you better have it. If you have land and you have family that has land and they're saying, we don't know what we're gonna do, and they trying to sell it, you better pray and convince them not to.
Right.
And hold on to it. It's what you need to do. Are you understanding me?
Yes.
We have to. Now look what he says once again. He said, "What's the profit if I'm about to die?" Because he didn't care about it anyway. He had an issue with that way of life. That's why I believe he was always gone and he was always hunting. You know when people have an issue with something, when they're never around, they always want to be gone. They don't never want to be a part of that. And when you know you have family like that, basically their mentality is, I don't want to be a part of it, and I'm going to show you as soon as I get the opportunity, I'm ghost. I'm bouncing. Because they want that way of life. They're about that life, not this life. I am so thankful that he opened up my eyes to see. Are you hearing?
Yes.
It's important that we understand that. I don't need one of my big cars. Still is a Mercedes, but I can't do nothing with no Mercedes. I love that Hummer too. That thing big and beautiful. I see myself driving it. But I have no issue with not wanting those things for a better cause.
Right.
Because I can't eat that. Are you hearing me?
Yes.
And yeah, it's big enough to sleep in, but it'd be cold as crap. Especially when you can't put no gas in it and keep it warm. Now you just got a big old paperweight. Because you can't do nothing with it. Are you hearing me?
Yes.
All right, let us read, please. 33 and 34.
From the set apart scriptures. And Yaakov said, "Swear to me of this day." So he swore to him and sold his birthright to Yaakov. Then Yaakov gave Esau lechem and stew of lentils, and he ate and drank, arose and went his way. Therefore Esau despised his birthright. And it is so.
And it is so. Now look, he didn't just get rid of it. He had already despised it. He already despised it. Because you have to understand, I believe that he had an issue with his brother from the beginning because he had the love and the attention of his Emma. He loved his papa, but it's nothing like the attention of an Emma. Are you understand me? It's nothing like the attention of both, to be truthful. But there's something about the attention of your Emma. And so her attention was more towards Yaakov. But she didn't, she had an issue with Esau. And you can see it. And I believe that that's why he stayed away and he despised it. What can it profit me? You want it, you can have it, because all y'all do is talk about it. Ain't no telling what all he wasn't doing. Ain't no telling what all and how many times Esau, they walked up on him talking about it or scheming and dreaming about it. And he's like, I don't care, I don't want it. Once again, it was his loss because he didn't understand or value what he had. And it is so. All right, let's read chapter 26, please.
Chapter 26, verse 1. There was a famine in the land, beside the first famine that was in the days of Abraham. And Yasak went to Abimelech, king of the Plishtim, and Gerar. Then Yahuwah appeared to him and said, Do not go down to Mitzrayim, live in the land of which I shall tell you. Dwell in this land, and I will be with you and baruch you. For to you and your descendants I give all these lands, and I will perform the oath which I swore to your Abraham, your Abba. And I will make your descendants multiply as the stars of the Shemaim. And I will give to your descendants all these lands, and in your descendants all the nations of the earth shall be baruch. Because Abraham obeyed my voice and guarded my ordinance, my commandments, my statutes, and my Torah. So Yasek dwelt in Gerar, and it is so.
Now, once again, we're looking, and he's saying this was going to happen. Now, look, there was a famine in the land beside the first famine that was in the days of Abraham. And Isaac went to Abimelech, king of the Plishtim, in Gerar. Now, it's the same thing. Do we continually hear what happened? Famine. Famine. There is a famine that is going to hit. There is a famine that is coming. We don't hear about this, and we don't see the trend and the plight of our people, and you will constantly remind us and show us in the writings these things, because it's going to happen again. And we've got to be prepared. And it is so. Now, look what he says, and we're going to jump down to verse 3. Dwell in the land, and I will be with you, and baruch you. But he tells him, first of all, in 2, he says, Then Yahuwah appeared to him and said, Do not go down to Mitzrayim. Live in the land of which I shall tell you. He said, I'm going to tell you where to go. This is why it's important that we be sensitive to the voice of Yahuwah, to know where we are supposed to live, where we are supposed to lay our roots, and not just anywhere, just because we want to, but that we find that place and listen, and we go where he tells us to go. And it is so. All right, let's read. Yes.
And the man in the place told him about his wife. He said, She is my sister. But he was afraid to say, She is my wife, because he thought, lest the men of the place should kill me for Rivkah, because she was beautiful to behold. Now it came to pass, when he had been there a long time, that Abimelech, king of the Plishtim, looked through a window and saw, and there was Isaac showing endearment to Rivkah, his wife. Then Abimelech called Isaac and said, Quiet, obviously she is your wife. Oh, was that quiet?
Quite.
Quite obviously she is your wife. So how could you say she is my sister? And Isaac said to him, Because I said, lest I die on account of her. And Abimelech said, What is this you have done to us? One of the people might soon have lain with your wife, and you would have fought against. So Abimelech charged all his people, saying, He who touches this man or his wife shall surely be put to death. And it is so.
And it is so. We see the same thing that he did. Abraham did the same thing.
That's right.
Now, this Abimelech believed in some of the law of the Torah, a clear hint of the religion of Islam, which will come and settle in the regions of Yisrael and will take on some Torah aspects. Although we know that the Philistines were idolatrous people, here is the demarcation of the end times battle, if one can see it. Once again, we see where he does the same thing as Abraham did. Right. But he gets caught because this man starts looking out the window, and 9 times out of 10, he probably was kissing him. It just says showing endearment. I mean, just because you hug somebody, we hug, different ones. But he probably saw him out there kissing his wife, and he probably thinking, what the crap? Mm-hmm. You out here showing endearment, you kissing, you not know what could have happened. It had to be something that made him see that there was a connection. Are you hear me? Because we hug people. Are you hear me? Yes. We hug people. Hey, how you doing? Side hug, front hug. Are you understanding me? Yes. So there had to be something that alluded to that this is this man's wife. Because 9 times out of 10, he probably was kissing her. He probably getting him some sugar. And isn't it amazing that he'd be looking out the window? Right. He look out the window at time, he just walk by the window and go and pull the curtain. What the? And he said, let me go and talk to these people. So don't nobody go and do this. Because evidently it was common for them if they came and they saw women and they said, hey, she's single. So I'm going to take her and make her my wife. Because you have to understand, that's what they did. They didn't stand before the justice of the peace, which is not really peace. They didn't stand before judges. What was considered marriage is when you slept with a person. That's why you notice when, who was it, when Isaac had his wife Rebecca, Rachel. When Rachel was brought to him, he took her into his tent and he slept with her, and that was their marriage right there. That's why it's important to be careful who you're intimate with. You hear me? Yeah. Especially when you know truth. Mm-hmm. When you don't know truth, even then, it still ain't good to be sleeping around. That's just a no-no. That's a blatant no-no. But especially when you're walking the truth. Because the moment you make physical contact and you lie with that person, and you know this, you marry them. Are you hearing me? Yes. You marry that person. So, yeah, be careful. Are you hearing me? And it's so. It's so. All right. Let us read, please.
Then Isaac sowed in that land and reaped in the same year 100-fold, and Yahuwah root him, and the man began to prosper and continued prospering until he became very prosperous.
Now listen at this, verse 12. Then Isaac sowed in that land and reaped in the same year 100-fold, and Yahuwah root him. Now before all that, he couldn't do anything. Why? Because he was at a place where he was limited. Why would I say he was limited? Because remember, he's living under a false pretense. What is the false pretense? That Rivkah is his sister. Mm-hmm. So he cannot really begin to go and do certain things because he's living under a false pretense. Whenever you live a lie, everything you do has to support that lie. Right. It has to support it. And so when that lie is diminished and the truth comes out, look what happens. Now he's able to do what he needs to do, and he prospers. Look what it says. Then Isaac sowed in that land and reaped in the same year 100-fold, and Yahuwah baruched him, because he was able to do what he needed to do without restrictions. When you are restricted, it is hard to get anything. It really is. But when you break free of that, you're able to do what you need to do. All right, let's finish reading.
For he had possessions of flocks and possessions of herds and a great number of servants. So the Philistines envied him.
Now, once again, he had servants, so you can imagine those that were there, they probably was thinking, well, shoot, let me go on and work with him. He got the cheddar. He know how to pay people. Because he had servants, are you understanding me? And he did have some that was in that time. But look what happens. They began to envy him because this boy began to prosper. And Yahuwah had began to baruch him in what he was doing. All right, let's read.
Now the Philistines had stopped up all the wells which his Abba's servants had dug in the days of Abraham his Abba, and they had filled them with the earth. And Abimelech said to Isaac, "Go away from us, for you are much mightier than we."
Now once again, look what they did. Now you know the reason they stopped up the wells was because if he couldn't drink and his herd couldn't drink, they couldn't produce because they couldn't do do anything. So what do you do? You stop up the source that helps you to continue to move forward. Let me tell you something. Water is very important. It's very important. And it is important to us now, and it's going to be really important to us in the days and the months and the years to come. Are you understanding me? Yeah. Because without water, you cannot grow anything. Without water, you cannot live. You can go for 30 days without food, but you can't go for 4 days without water. And that's the same thing with animals. You have to have water. The only animal I believe can live long without water is a camel. It's a camel. A camel is the only thing that I know that can go days and maybe weeks without water, but any other animal cannot. So he had to water and he had to feed. And so they said, we'll fix you, we'll stop up the wells. And then you can't do anything and you'll have to leave. Because see, you get, and then we can't have you around here. Let's read.
And Yasek departed from there and pitched his tent in the valley of Gerar and dwelt there.
And it is so. All right, come on, 18, 19, 20, 21, 22, 23.
18:23 reads. And Isaac dug in the wells of Mayhem, which they had dug in the days of Abraham, his Abba, for the Plishtim, and stopped them up after the death of Abraham. He called them by the names which his Abba called them. And also Isaac's servants dug in the valley, finding Mayhem there. But the herdsmen of Gerar did strive with Yaakov's herdsmen, saying, the Mayhem is ours. So he called the name of the well Esek, because they strove with him. Then they dug another well, and they quarreled over that one also. So he called its name Sitna. And he moved from there and dug another well, and they did not quarrel over it. So he called its name Rehoboth, because he said, for now Yahuwah has made room for us, and we shall be fruitful in the land. Then he went up from there to Beersheba, and it is so.
And it is so. Now, when I look at this and I read this, I look at how many people call their churches these names and don't really realize it had nothing to do with a church.
That's right.
Are you understanding?
Yes.
Nothing to do. The herdsmen strove with them. They said, this is ours. So we call the name of the well Esek, because they strove with him. And let's look at the footnotes real quick. Is that not what the Muslims are doing, claiming everything of Yisrael as their own? And it means, Esek means contention. Now, then they dug another well and they quarreled over that one also, so called it, that means hatred. That means he called it a well of hatred. Now, he moved from there and dug another well and they did not quarrel over it. So he called its name Rehoboth because he said, for now Yahuwah has made room for us and we shall be fruitful in the land. Then he went from there to Beersheba. Once again, it's important that we understand. Many times people take names and they say, well, he's made room for us. First of all, in order for him to make room for you, you have to be walking in his truth.
That's right.
You have to be walking in truth. To enlarge, this is an incredible end time children of Isaac. The Muslims will have contention with Yisrael. They will show hatred and battle with them. Then Yahuwah will give Yisrael victory and will enlarge land to the point that the Muslim will no longer be seen quarreling with them, as that will be the end, all ends after the battles. Once again, so it's important that we understand everything that we read. We have to understand it is what shot. There are 4 things: Pashat, Remez, Drash, and Sod. Hidden mystery hidden. Sod, which is the mystery or that which is hidden. Reds, which is the same thing. Then you have literal, and then you have drash, which is like it is allegorical, but at the same time it be literal. And then there are the hidden things. So we can't just take and say, oh, well, they strong with us, so now we're going to use this name. Why? Because now we have the freedom to do. No, it has nothing to do with that. It has to to do with present day and future time events. That's why I was looking at something even on yesterday, and I looked at there was a preacher on, and I just happened to stop just to see. And I looked, and he was talking about Yaakov and Ishmael. And one thing I've learned about Christianity is Christianity teaches upon people's problems. They create sermons to geared to minister or to preach towards the people's problems instead of finding basically to bring them into truth. They preach and they teach upon the problems in the people's lives instead of showing them the reason there's a problem in their life. They create sermons, they create different things that come in and basically keep them in that position, and they basically pacify and say, well, you do this and it's going to get better. And still they're the same one. It's like a placebo. You know how people don't need pills, but they take them. Now, a lot of folk, everybody that's walking in Christianity, let me not say some, everybody that's walking in Christianity need to come out of Christianity.
That's right.
That's the truth. Saying God and Jesus, they just saying Yahuwah and Yahusha.
That's right.
You can't say, well, the Sabbath rest was taken away when you continue to preach that if you are a sinner, you're going to die and go to hell. You cannot continue to preach that the breaking of the commandments is a sin, and yet you don't keep them. You are selective in what you take out of it. But what they do is they give the people a placebo. They give them something that they make them feel like you're changing. You're getting better. Just keep taking this. And all along, it's no change whatsoever.
That's right.
And so it had nothing to do with people outside of truth. This still has everything to do with us as a people. They take the different verses and the different chapters and they take it and they tailor it, modify it to fit. So that when they preach to the masses, they're preaching about problems and not telling the people why they have the problem. So I'm telling you this is the problem, but I'm not going to tell you why that problem is going on in your body. You have high blood pressure. Why? If you're eating foods high in sodium and you're eating a lot of stuff that's salty and you're not drinking water and you're not eating a well-balanced diet, I'm not helping you by telling you go take this. I got to first tell you why you have it so you can go and change that, and then you can start doing better.
That's right.
It's just like trying to put, you got a cut this big, and you're trying to put a Band-Aid this big on.
That's right.
Oh, it's going to cover it. It's going to stop it eventually. No, it won't stop. But I saw where they was teaching about Isaac and Ishmael, and you can't be in the house, and I'm going to get the blessings of the Father. And you start thinking, no, you won't. Because what you're after is only materialistic things.
Right.
You only want a big house, a fine car, and a lot of money in your bank account. Because when truth does come and it hits a lot of us where we live, the first thing is that can't be true. Because he don't want me struggling. Ain't nobody struggling here.
That's right.
Ain't nobody struggling here. Are you understanding me?
Yes.
There are a lot of things we're doing to let go because we wanted to. Are you understanding?
Yes.
Because we saw the better and we saw what was most important, and that's walking into our truth and loving him and walking by his commandments. That's what he's given us to live by. So once again, you have to understand, this was part of prophecy and also showing us that that's what they did. And it shows us literally what they had to go through.
That's right.
That's right.
And what they continue to go through over there on a day-to-day basis. Are you hearing me? There are places they can't go now because the Muslims are over there. If they can't go to the Muslims, they can't go because of the false folk there. It's just a mess. It's just a mess, and it is so. And it is so, it's just a mess. Once again, it's important that we reflect upon these things and we remember. And this is what I love about our 54 weeks of walking the Torah. Walking through the Torah. It gives us an opportunity to see how our people carried themselves, the places they walked, how they listened, and even how they disobeyed. What were the consequences? How were we not to do what they did? Because let me tell you something. No matter how many times we read this, you're always going to see something different because he always opens our eyes up a little wider to see see what we didn't see before. So everything, because you read 50 times, you didn't see everything. Let me tell you something. You can read the writings a million times and you're still going to come out with something different because he shows it to us from our ability to understand, from where we are growing and developing. So the more we develop, the more he widens the revelation and shows us and widens our eyes to see it and to understand it and comprehend what is being said. So it's important that we understand these things, and it is so.
And it is so.
And it is so. My time is up as I come to you on this night, this Yom Shishi, our day of preparation, and come to prepare ourselves for Sabbath rest, a time that we rest, a time that we commemorate and celebrate the rest of our Savior, Yahuwah through His Son, Yahushua HaMashiach. Once again, I want to say to you, we love you, we're praying with you, and we're praying for you. Be encouraged, and continue to uphold the bloodstained banner. Continue to keep your life set apart, because when you continue to keep your life set apart, be warned, you're going to find that people will not like you. They won't get with you. Why? Because you're not going with the main flow. Most of the time, we end up going against the grain because we're not doing what everybody else is doing. Right. And it is what it is. But I believe that when he speaks to us and he gives us a commission and a command, that we are to follow through with it. And so I want you to remember, no matter what, you always have it here in South Carolina. We're praying with you and for you. We love you. And once again, I pray that Yahuwah continues to baruch you in this time and in this season. Once again, it is very cold outside. It is below freezing. So please stay warm if you're traveling, finishing up your preparations. Please make sure you stay warm. Keep your head covered. Keep your feet warm and dry. And make sure, above all, that you check in on somebody that may need some help, or are not sure. Just give them a call and check them and make sure they're faring in this cold weather. Once again, I'm ready to be kissed by the sun. I'm ready for the sun. This fasting ain't working. I don't like that. And so when the sun does peek out and kiss me, it lets me know that soon it will be out, and it will be out in a good amount of time. But again, I want to say to you, we love you, we're praying with you, we're praying for you. I am Prophet Sabrina Brown, also Moral 777, and I am the leader of Messengers of Yahuwah's Kingdom of Bread Belief Ministries, located in South Carolina. Once again, I want you to know we love you and we're praying with you, and we are praying for you. Once again, I want you to remember, here at Messengers of Yahuwah's Kingdom of Bread Belief Ministries, this is the place where the Torah does the body good. Until next time, may Yahuwah Baruch Atah and keep you in his shalom till we meet again. Also, I want you to remember that you've been touched by Champion TV, a place where the champions reside. And it is so. And it is so. And it is so.